And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tanya Talks. I'm your host, Tanya Ricketts. And tonight we are joined by the powerful LoLo Jennings. Welcome.
Yes, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome.
Yes. So I am just going to I'm going to introduce right from the onset. You are a nutritionist and you deal with fitness as well. I am Lit Fit Lolo. It's a little bit of a tongue twister for me. And your website, I'm just going to, share your website just from the onset, and I'll mention it again for all you guys tuning in and listening. And it's litfitnutritionandfitness.com. So
Yes,
as you get to learn about Lolo tonight, I want everybody to go over to her website, check it out. But I also want you to know that this powerful woman that we have speaking to us tonight, and that we're going to have an amazing conversation on, did you get the memo? Because I don't know if anybody got the memo, but Lolo is going to share with us just her journey on discovering just how powerful beyond measure she is. And I'm looking forward to you sharing that with us tonight. So check out her Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. But I want you to check out her TikTok videos, because this lady is on fire, like entertaining, information that is impactful and useful for every single one of us to really change our lives. So without further ado, I would love for you to share with our audience just really when you discovered that you weren't living in your true power.
Let me tell you what, it was so recent, I could literally touch it. The pandemic, right? The pandemic was, I want to say it was the pivotal point that pointed me in the right direction and showed me that I was not living to the standard that I was created for. And it's like I had moments in my life where I thought I was getting there, but it's always those things that happen in our lives that push us back and put us in a place where you think, oh, you ain't all that. You just sit on down, girl. It's all right. Leave it to the pros. And the pandemic showed me I had to face myself. So when you're with yourself a lot, you have to face it. You have to deal with it. You no longer have the outside demands drawing your attention from yourself. And so I got to this point, I want to say it was around about after my birthday, because I turned 43 in 2020. And that was at that moment, I said, you know what? No more. I'm no longer going to live beneath that standard anymore. I know who I am. I know who I am. I know I need to show up for myself first, and then I can show up for everyone else. And so I really changed my self-talk and started telling myself how powerful I am, and getting rid of the noise that says just exist, be quiet, sit down, hush up, and not stand for something. You know, that saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Right.
Well, yeah. I honestly believe that. And I embrace that in a way that not many of us have, been brought up to do. I tell my son all of these things. Everything that I tell myself, I tell to my son, I tell to my husband. And I had to start encouraging myself and starting to fill my own cup, because I'm such a servant-minded individual, always at a place where I put myself out for the benefit of other people, to see them live their best life, to see them exceed and just, thrive. But I had to stop.
But never added yourself into the equation.
Never added myself into the equation. I allowed myself to, I've been in the fitness industry over 6+ years. Okay. So going back from my story, and this is when I felt or saw my potential, and why I took on and harnessed my power even further, is because when I want to say about 36, I was severely diabetic, severely overweight, 245 pounds at my highest. And being diabetic and being on 3 injectable medications and 3 oral medications, that to me was not life. That was not living.
Mm-hmm.
And so I let my doctor know I'm taking myself off of all of these medications. If I can't heal myself through nutrition, then maybe I'll be back. But this is it. I'm done. I'm done. This is
Wow.
not life. I hated the way that I felt. I was always going hypoglycemic. So I had all of these scary situations kind of happen, some of them behind the wheel. I don't know who can relate to that, but that's not life. That is that's a tumultuous life to live, and it was not comfortable, nor was it
But somehow
enjoyable.
you trusted yourself to be able
Yeah,
to take yourself out of the situation. What did that feel like?
I was just fed up. I
Okay.
was fed up, and I I looked at the total picture. I looked holistically and said, I don't want my husband to have to deal with this. I don't want my children to have to deal with this. I don't want anyone having to take care of me because I couldn't take care of me. And that to me just wasn't fair. And I see that narrative played out in our lives, especially in the Black and brown community, is we just accept these things as they are. We accept poor health as just the way it is. And I said, no, that cannot possibly be life. And so long story short, I got my stuff together. I figured out how to decrease my body composition, the fat on my body, and increase my nutrient density. So I was eating lots of greens and chicken breast and whole foods. And sure enough, fast forward to today, I am 65 pounds down, and I'm never going to be that again. You will never find me that way again.
And I love the fact that you incorporate fun into that whole lifestyle that you do. Again, everybody, you got to see the TikToks, okay? Because you're out there roller skating, and
Yes,
you're vibrant, and I just like the way that you took your personal power back, but you made it fun.
yes,
You didn't
yes.
take it so you took it seriously, but not in a way that you had to lose another piece of yourself. What you did was you gained yourself.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, I'm going to be down 65 pounds and I'm going to enjoy it. This is what I'm going to do. And
That's it.
you're still helping others along the way.
Absolutely. And that the cool thing about it is, you talk about fun. I have always been a fun person, super jovial. And sometimes I would go into situations and they're just looking at me like, why is she so happy? And, that kind of does something to you mentally too. They're like, what are you so happy about? And as if you don't have permission to do that. But I realized that I didn't have a childhood the way that most, I won't say the most, that a majority of people do have when they're a child. They get you know so many things out of being a child, experiences that I didn't get to experience, so I had to kind of grow up very quickly. So now I'm a super jokester with my kids. Love my kids, love, we video game all the time, love to go skating, love to just have fun and enjoy life. I spend 60 to 70% of my day laughing, if that makes any sense at all.
Well,
I
it does.
mean,
But how amazing is that here you are, you didn't have a childhood. Now you fast forward your life, you're super jovial. You were diagnosed with a severe health condition. The unselfish thing for you to do, and I want the audience to really understand this when we have, when we're compromised with our health, and why it's so important for us to be unselfish. In that moment, you realize that you didn't think it was fair for your family to take on something that you actually had control over. So you took responsibility unselfishly, but at the same time, learning how to love yourself because you weren't taught that earlier on in life.
right,
And
exactly.
then you incorporate fun into it. So we all know about the brain coherence and the dopamine and everything else. And you're laughing all the time. What's the cheapest medicine?
Exactly. Boom pow. It's a mess. Like it's something that once you tap into it, there's no going back. There's nothing you can't do. I don't want to feel my age. I want to feel like age is not even a thing. It's not a constraint.
Right.
And I'm not limited in any way. My thought and my mobility, I'm just living my life like it's golden, like for real.
Right.
Like for real.
Like it's the real deal when you're seeing all the stuff, the content that you're
it.
putting out there.
That's it.
And you're ready to bring the whole world with you. Like, come on, guys, let's go.
It bounces off the walls wherever I am, that vibe bounces off the walls. I live
I
it.
get so inspired when I see the pictures of you with your, your arm out there. I get so inspired. Talk to us about just in the later, like in the last 6 months, you said, COVID hit about a little over a year ago, and
Yeah.
what your life has looked like in the last 6 months or so, as you really started to explode and really ascend into another state of who you are.
Yeah. So, man, past 6 months, everything has gone so fast, Tanya. It just really has. And I don't think I've really had a moment to just sit and digest that. I knew that I wanted to make the impact that I'm making right now. I did not know the vehicle in which it would, I would do that. And for me, it was being able to touch people virtually since we were in this pandemic and it put us all in our houses. I wanted to be able to inspire people to movement. So I had a Facebook group. And at first, I wasn't charging anyone for it. But once I started kind of adding up what I was spending just to make it happen, I said, okay, I can't do that anymore. I've got to have something in return. And it grew to a certain point, and then it got to a point where I had to just kind of shut it down and go this direction. So my business is very brand spanking new, but my impact is not new. I've been making this impact that I'm making now, just on a larger scale. And so coming from post-pandemic and trying to figure out what that was supposed to look like for me, I just found a way that allowed me to promote the same ideal, right, about health and fitness, but it wasn't health and fitness. Notice the name, nutrition and fitness.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in fitness for a very long time, but nutrition is now, it's become woven into my DNA. There's no letting go of that. So it was recent that I had gotten my certification. So I'm a newbie when it comes to nutrition. However, I knew nutrition. I just didn't have the credentials to back it up.
Right.
But I know this past year, and if you even talk about just this past 6 months, I've been absorbing data, books,
Downloading.
peer-reviewed journals. I mean, yeah, I'm in a download phase. I want to know all of the things, and still, no matter how much I learn, I'm still surprised by the information that I find, and so I just want to be able to get that, be able to digest that and give it to people in a real, very layman's terms way.
Yes.
And take out all the minutia and just give them what they can use, chew up the meat, spit out the bones type deal.
Right.
So yeah, and so that's what I'm able to do in this past 6 months has been just transformative for me personally. And now I want to help people transform internally on a cellular level. And because if you think about weight loss and fitness and things like that, the idea that many promote is, oh, just move, just get out and work out. I did that. And my body fat composition remained the same. And so what that reality that knocked me on the head is that I had to change what was going in order to perpetuate what's going to come out.
Right.
And so that's where I am.
Okay. I want to backtrack.
Solid.
I want to backtrack a little bit with you because, you now have the credentials. And I say to people all the time, I think we let our credentials hold us back, like not having credentials hold us back. And you knew nutrition all along. And I say to people all the time, because it resonates with me personally. You have more hands-on experience in nutrition just by your daily lifestyle. I say that I tell people I belong to the school of life. What are your credentials? The school of life. I always say, and I'm again not suggesting in any way that people should not get an education.
Right.
I remember sitting there thinking to myself that the high school dropouts turn out to be the billionaires, and the ones getting educated are the ones making the ceiling paycheck that got all the debt and working for the high school dropouts that are
right. That part. Yes.
So I'm just like, it's got to do with something that inside of you. And this is the conversation that, you know, you're powerful enough that no education is required because you have everything within you to do everything that you need to
Yes, yes, yes. We have all the tools that we need, but sometimes it takes situations to kind of happen to push you in the right direction. And some people don't make it that direction. But thank God I just have some earthly sense about myself. I know what living is. I know what life living me is.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to reverse it because to me, that's a curse.
Mm-hmm.
When life begins to live you, it will wear you out, shake you
That's a
out, and
powerful
leave you
statement.
for
You got to
dead.
say that again. That's powerful. When life starts to,
When life lives you and you're no longer living it, that's not living.
okay,
That
I
is
love
not
that.
living. It is just not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not acceptable. And I think that's where we harness our power, is when you start calling things out and saying what is acceptable and what is not. We will allow for things to happen to us rather than us happen to things. We are just that powerful to make things in our lives happen and believe those things that are not as if they were, you know, that's the word.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it took me a while to get back to that place. I was at that place years ago. You know, I was very spiritual, very caught up in the church and things like that. And, you know, fast forward to today, I still have that knowledge. That doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that spirit that God put in me that was just as powerful before is just as powerful now. It just looks different. It's
Right,
evolved,
right.
you know, and so I
You've
had to
ascended, as I
accept
said
that.
before, when we started our conversation, you've ascended.
I have ascended, and you know
Yeah.
that it sounds so noble, right? I have ascended, and I really do feel that. When you said that, I was like, yes, I have. You
Right.
know, and I'm not talking on a transcendent level, but I mean, it almost feels like that. You know, I just don't have the same stresses that I did a year ago. I'm
Right.
not the same person. I've evolved into this person that I look at every day. I show up for myself and I say, girl, yes. Girl, yes. You better. You
And what's
better.
nice about what I appreciate about you, and I wish everybody could come to this place, we're all different and unique, but you're very comfortable owning the truth of who you are. You're not shying away from it. Yes, I have ascended. And you're not
100%.
explaining and prefacing yourself. And I think that that's where true power lies, when we've embraced who God made us to be.
Yeah.
And we are, I believe humility is when we are allowing our talents to serve others.
Mm-hmm. 100%. 100%. And I've always been that way. You know, my mother was that way. She she was always the one letting people come, whether it was friends, family, to the house, come and eat, come, you know, if you need a place to stay, my house is your house type deal. And I learned that from her. And seeing that played out just made it a part of me. So I also did the same thing. Even when I had no space, I invited people into my home and let them stay because I couldn't bear the idea of someone being out or being in a very inhumane condition when I
Mhm.
know that I could do something,
Right.
right? I mean, I know I have children and I have, you know, they have their rooms, but guess what? I have a living room and a couch. That's the best that I can do. It's something. And so my husband and I, we've always been that way. Just we'll put ourselves out for the benefit of others. But
And the difference this time around is
sometimes,
you're adding yourself into the equation, making sure.
right, there you
Yeah.
go. There you go. Because sometimes you forget, oh yeah, I gotta take care of myself too. Okay. Okay, got it.
Right, right. And I want to touch upon a little bit about the servant leadership, because that, you know, as you're talking about it, it does, you know, um, servant leadership, I think, is again when we own our true power and we understand who we are. And I always believe, I'm going to touch a little bit on the financial aspect of it. I think that God, when you're truly in alignment with who God made you to be,
Hmm.
He will cause wealth to come into your life like none other.
Mm. Well, I'm
So
receiving that.
Right.
I'm receiving that right on now, right on today.
Well, it's just no different than I say to people, you are born into the religion you are born into. Like, I really shy away from knocking other religions because I believe that you are born into the religion you were born into
Yep.
to help you while you're on the earth. So who are we to say that, Christianity is better than, another religion, or, I
Right.
think it's here to complement our journey here while we're here. And when we can understand that, and we can, as I call it, the download, is you take all that knowledge and all that stuff you studied, and later on you fast forward and you ascend and you tap into your power, you still have all that to draw upon to help you
Yeah.
at the next stage of where you're supposed to be as you
Right.
expand and transform and be a servant leader in whatever capacity. Like, not servant leaders don't mean you're CEO or sitting on a board. It could be, I say, I could be sweeping the floor as a servant leader.
Right. Exactly. That part.
Right.
Yeah.
So, talk to us a little bit what your mind, like, let's get into your mind, because you have said a couple of times that, you started to speak differently. So walk me through what it would be like in your mind in a day.
Oh, in a day. Let's see. Woo.
I
Well,
wake up in the morning and
I wake up in the morning and I drink my water, baby. I get hydrated because we get dehydrated when we sleep. We don't realize the importance of water. And I just start to rehydrate myself, number one. And from there, I have a routine. I don't know if you know what a Tibetan singing bowl is.
yes, I
Okay,
have
well,
them.
I've got one of those, and that is the one thing that just gets me every single time I ring it. I roll it around that rim, and it just reverberates and it touches my soul. So the first thing in the morning, I want to awaken my soul.
Mhm.
And so that's how I do that. And then once my soul is open, I have my silence, and then I go into guided meditations while I'm getting myself together. And yes, I do put my makeup on every day, but I don't have a full face of makeup, as I've told many of people. I get my eyes popping because my eyes are very small. Okay, so I have to make sure that you can see my expressions. So I have to eyelash it, right? So
You got to
my
teach
eyes
me
will
that.
always be popping. Girl, I have to. It's one of those things. That's how I say I show up for myself. I don't put this on for nobody else. This is for me. So
Right.
when I look in the mirror and I'm like, yes, girl, come on, come through. It's time to go. Right. I'll go through my guided meditations and then I get into my books. So while I'm putting myself together, and I go really slow, by the way, I don't rush through that process because
Mhm.
that sets the cadence for the rest of my day.
Mhm.
But I do that. And then once I'm ready to go and I know that I can present myself in the way that I can be proud, then I walk out that door and I commence. I just go and I go, pretty much I go. Outside of my nutrition business, because again, it's new, I work in corporate. So I'm a scrum master, servant leader, and I lead a team of engineers.
Oh, wow.
And I take this to them in a way that is sufficient for them. So I meet them where they are. And I'm able to lead them in a way that they can be more productive and effective, in producing for the organization that I work for. So once I'm done with that, and really in between, because that during lunchtime, I have a group of girls that I work with that I'll do virtual training videos, give them some encouragement, whenever I can. And then outside of work, I have personal training clients. I have my business clients with my 12-week transformation program, which looks a little different because it's all virtual. Um, and yeah, I'm doing all of the things. I'm big on Clubhouse now, so I began using my voice. That was another way I was able to harness my power and get back to speaking at this level. Because when you don't surround yourself with people who get you on this level, that's when it becomes very easy to regress and to kind of almost become recluse and just
Mhm.
silence yourself. And that's absolutely what happened.
When
Is
did you realize you lost your voice?
Oh my God.
And how long did you use it for?
Really, it was, oh God, you're making me step back now, Tanya,
Okay.
child.
You know what? It's always nice to know a little history, because I think,
Yeah.
you know, when we hear each other's stories, it doesn't make us feel so bad when we feel like, you know, I had lost my voice. You know, the truth be told, I lost my voice for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, that even hearing myself say that now, it's like, what do you mean? Did you lose your voice over 10 years ago?
You know what, Tanya? I'm right there with you, because it was 2014 when I lost it.
Mm-hmm.
2014. I had a really terrible break from my church, and family that I thought was church family was no longer church family. Myself and my family were ostracized. I live in Texas. At the time, I had no family here, and that was my family.
So you
And
moved to Texas for this calling?
no, I was already here.
Okay.
But myself and my husband actually built a church along with a few other individuals and brought it up and helped to make it what it became. And I needed to leave. I needed to step down. I was a worship leader, and my husband was a minister of music. And because I wanted to step down, that was obviously not what the pastor wanted. And so he made it very difficult for me. There were some things that were said. I have no idea what picture he painted for the rest of, you know, the congregation. And it really did my family in. My children looked at me very differently, like, why did you make this happen? You know what I mean? It was just, it was terrible. It almost
How do you bounce back
destroyed
from
us.
something like that?
Say it again.
How do you bounce back?
It took a really long time. It took years, which is why I lost my voice. I didn't know who I was anymore. That was my identity for a long time. Did you believe it? Did I what?
Did you believe what they were saying?
Oh, no, not at all. I knew the truth. You know, there were some things that were happening in the background that should not have been happening and got called out. So of course you go in defense mode, right? And they're going to say what it is that they want to say, regardless of if it's the truth or not. But it was totally untrue. But it got to a point where after the fact, we had to shake that off and say, that was then, this is now. What are we going to do to make it better? What are we going to do in lieu of the situation? So we just got, and this was at the point, see, I was very, very overweight and heavy because I was constantly serving, and I wasn't serving myself, constantly serving, giving. And so this happened around about the time that I decided I'm not going to be overweight and diabetic anymore. And so it kind of converged at that same moment. And that's when I started making those steps back towards who I am and who I'm standing, you know, sitting here before you as. But man, that took a really long time. I can't even tell you, maybe about 5-6 years afterwards, there was a lot that we had to repair. I had to repair my relationship with my children, let alone my husband.
Right.
Like I said, it almost took us out completely.
That's awful. I'm sorry to hear that you went through that, but I'm happy. I'm sure you felt very empowered at that moment when you realized that I overcame this.
Yes. Even now, just, you know, we talk about it every now and then, and we talk about where we used to be, and it is day and night, night and day. There is a huge difference just in our communication, our relationship, me and my husband, my children. We are the closest we have ever been. And if it wasn't for the fact that my babies, my two girls, they're not babies. My girls are in Austin, Texas, which is only about an hour and a half away from us. But still, I don't get to see them every day. And then I have my 16-year-old who's always here with us, and just love him to pieces. He's the cutest thing ever. Such a sweet, sweet, sweet boy. And he loves his mom and his daddy. And I love to be able to say that, you know. That's not how I grew up, you know, so that's very different.
That's
I'm not
a blessing,
really used
right?
to that. It is a blessing beyond. So, you know, we are just nurturing him and giving him all the tools and the knowledge that he needs to go out and be a contributor to society. So, yeah, man.
So when I think about, you know, when I was working on building your campaign, and I think about, you know, I'm powerful beyond measure, and I'm
Yeah.
listening to you now, it's like for anybody that's been through adversity, it's like you've earned the right to stand before the world and
Oh my
say,
God.
no, honey child, you missed the memo. You
I
really
got my stripes, sis. I got my stripes. I sure enough did. And I mean, that's only part of the story. You know, I
Right.
come from a history of alcoholism, sexual abuse. I mean, you name it, been there, done that. So many ugly, dark moments in my life. And I think that's what gave me the power to say no more.
Right.
I'm not going to live in that. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to cause myself more pain by living in the past. I have to rise. I have to get out of this. I have to use my voice, whether people want to hear my voice or not. I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and that's going to be that. If anything that I say that is helpful for anyone, then I've stepped into my purpose. And that's just the way it is. So some people may love what I have to say, and some people go, oh, God, oh my God, right? I can't care about that. I
Let's be
can't
honest.
care,
They're
right?
gonna talk about you anyways. It doesn't
I
matter
can't
what.
care. I don't have time to care.
Well, they're gonna talk about you good or bad. And I realized that when I started to wake up to the fact,
Right?
if I'm doing terrible, you're gonna chat about me. If
One
I'm
or the
doing
other.
great, you're gonna talk. So
Doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter, right?
and then I always say I didn't think I was that interesting in anybody's life for you to be talking about.
Yeah, like, you know, people are always watching, and you know, we live in this world of social media, which can be, let's say that's a little something, you know, in between likes and comments and stuff like that. And I find it funny that people who don't like your, you know, your posts and things like that, they'll comment on something you posted, and it's like, I don't remember you commenting or liking that post. That's interesting, but okay. But you got to kind of give benefit of the doubt. No, not everybody has time to do all of that. And
Right.
and so I had to release myself from that constraint too, because that's a limitation of my mind, and just say it is what it is. It doesn't make or break me. Social media cannot make or break us. And I almost let it break me. It broke up a lot of relationships because I'm very observant. So I see when, you know, you're over here liking some of my friend stuff, but you're supposed to be my friend, and you just completely whiz past my stuff like it doesn't even exist. It's like, oh girl, I see you, but you know what? It's all good, because I gotta think differently. I gotta think benefit of the doubt, right? That you got your life going on, I got my life going on, and I just need to stay over here and worry about my business.
Right.
Mine.
Yeah.
And
And that
that's
is
it.
another place of power that we harness when we allow ourselves to release from all that. And I always say, I'm so focused on what I'm been brought here to do
Yeah.
that I know without a shadow of a doubt, God will always place the right people at the right time.
100%.
And I tell everybody I'm born under the right stars.
Right.
I said, hey, you couldn't. My dad used to say all the time, who God bless, no man curse.
Yes.
So no matter
Oh,
what,
yes.
like,
I remember that.
yeah, like, so it was just one of those things there. You know, I just say to myself all the time, but how we talk to ourselves, I'm like, I'm born under the right stars. You guys are laughing at me, thinking that I'm defeated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got
That's
started.
that's it. You don't even know. You don't
Right.
even know.
Right. I'm like, this is just God's way of setting me up. I
Set
was
me
born
right
under
on
the
up.
right stars. So
Perfect.
yeah, like I love it. What I love about, you know, listening when, and that not, you know, you went through such a hard time with your husband and it almost broke you in that moment. And what I say again, who God bless, no man curse.
Mm.
He ordained this relationship that, you know, was going to have outside interference and influence ruin something that God designed to be as a union together. It wasn't going to happen. And, you know, when people look at you now, I'm sure they're like, you know, oh, you're so lucky. And so this, and I always say to people, never, ever watch somebody else's life. Because if I ask you to step in my shoes and to go through what I've gone through.
Man, if I put these shoes on you, girl,
I don't think you can.
Girl, not only might they not fit, but girl, you might feel some things you never thought you wanted to feel, right? You never would have even thought in a million years you could feel those things. It's been difficult, but the awesome part about that is I feel like it made me that much more of an intentional human being to
like
make
that.
sure that I didn't repeat the same mistakes, that I took the information, because it was all a lesson, took the information and I'm using it for the greater good of myself and anyone who comes into contact with me, right? My experiences are valuable. They're valuable. They're more valuable than money, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
You know, I used to shy away from just talking about my life and about, you know, the things that I've gone through, but those stories, those experiences help people to see differently. It changes and alters perspectives like no other. Because people see this and they think one way. But if you give me 10 minutes and let me tell you just a snapshot of my story, your perspective of me will change tremendously. Tremendously.
I'm with you. I'm with you. You know, and I've been through my whole life. It must be lucky to do this. And I said, well, if you want to be homeless and you want to be abused and survive.
Come on. Come on, Tanya.
You know, so if you want that, sure, you can be just as lucky as me. But it didn't matter what I went through, whether if I was homeless or not. I was born under the right stars. But you go under those stars with me. Right? But it's so true, right?
You hit it.
You got it.
You hit the nail on the head.
This, you got that. And I'm like, do you want to? You know, I tell people this vision was placed in me when I was a child, but I had to go through so many things.
Yeah.
In order to get here.
Yeah.
I lost my voice for years. I hid for years.
Yeah.
You know, so, and when you realize that you're still standing over 20 years later, you're like, what's that song? Ain't nothing gonna hold me down. Who's that? Who sings?
Ain't nothing gonna hold me down.
That's your next TikTok.
Oh no, I got to keep on moving.
That's her next TikTok, everybody. We're holding her to it. We're expecting to see a TikTok on. I'm not a TikTok girl, and I'm not going to pretend to be no TikTok girl, you know, but that's what it is for me. It's just, so continue to talk to us about what that power looked like for you as you were able to set the example and be that narrative for your children, your girls, particularly your girls.
Yeah, they saw me at my worst, and now they get to see me at my best. And we had something happen when we went on vacation to California, and we decided to drive, and we ended up breaking down in Yuma, Arizona.
Okay.
And that experience shifted my children's trust in me, because it happened, and you know, one of our wheels needed to be repaired. It just literally, when we got, you know how you go and you get your car serviced and you make sure everything's all tight before you go on the road. Well, it wasn't all tight. Let's just say that. Wheel came off. We're on the side of the road on the freeway, and they come and they pick us up, but it was just a very abrupt experience. I had one guy, and you know, he instantly showed his disdain for culture, right? And so we started to experience that. That made us uneasy. We go to this truck.
That's scary too, right?
It is very scary. And instead, just being honest, being Black, you got to be careful. So we're in Yuma, and there's literally nobody that looks like us. Let's just say that. So we go to this truck stop where we have, you know, where they take our car, and literally the same thing happens. Is we start to experience this adversity that wasn't necessarily spoken, but you could feel it and cut the tension with a knife. So my husband had to go with this man to, you know, the mechanic, to go and to go and get a part. Well, he left us, and I don't want to say it like that, he didn't leave us, but he did.
Yeah.
We had to stay at, I want to say it was a Jack in the Box. Yeah. Well, he was gone for such a long time, Tanya. I lost it. It was just me and the kids. And at the time, my youngest was maybe 5. And so, you know, my girls are like 10 and 7. And oh my God, because of the way that it happened, I thought that this man took my husband. I didn't have connection with him. His phone had died. I didn't know. I left him the most horrifying message. He can't to this day listen to it because I broke down. I thought that they had killed my husband. And so fast forward, my oldest, China, she was so terrified. And she told me after we got off of the trip, she goes, I was so disappointed in you. I was so disappointed because you showed me that you no longer have faith. That shook me to my core. I was just, and I can't be mad at her for that. Because you're talking about a woman who's been walking in her faith all this time, and that one occurrence completely, I mean, we should have been praying, right? And just remaining calm and just allowing whatever's going to happen, but I lost it. And I think that it was that moment that told me, you know what, I need to make sure that before my children, my girls, leave my house, that I've restored that in them, that they have that faith in me, or trust and believe that I can stand in my faith. And it took a long time to get to that place, but I have to believe that I do now have that trust back from them, that I am faithful and I'll remain faithful forever, forever, forever. You know, we have those moments, and it shifted.
That scares me.
it shifted me for a moment, but to hear her say those words, if anything, that brought me back to the realization of just how powerful I am. If my daughter saw me walk in my faith, and she had trust and belief in me and security, even more than anything else, security. I made her feel insecure by my lack of faith.
Oh my God. I think
I never want them to feel that ever.
Absolutely. You know, and I think as parents in the audience needs to hear that, because you know, we're human. So to all you parents out there, that, you know, we're human and we get it. Like, we have our moments, but I think that those are moments where we're redirected as well.
Yes, I agree.
You know, and sometimes when we're under pressure and everything else, and things happen. But I think to myself, our children are watching, and
always
can't be preaching one thing and living another.
There you go. You go.
So, you know, I have high performance athlete children, and, you know, when I'm looking at them, there's no way. I always said this statement to them: it's not over. They're gymnasts, so they've got 4 apparatuses to go on.
Yeah.
And, you know, one would have made a mistake on one event. They had 3 apparatuses to go. And I said, let me tell you something. It ain't over till it's
over. That's it.
And I remember thinking to myself, but I don't practice
that. When you got to eat your own jelly beans, girl, after they done fell on the floor.
So I remember, and they didn't have to say that to me.
Yeah.
It was the realization that I'm not even practicing what I'm preaching. You know, truth be told, my daughter got a full ride scholarship in 6 weeks in the middle of a pandemic. And it's unheard of. We're from Canada. It's not heard of. Not to say it never happens.
Yeah.
But it's not likely to happen.
Not typical. Yeah.
And she didn't start applying for, you know, she didn't apply till March.
Oh, wow.
She's in the States right now.
Wow.
And I remember saying to her, God is not going to give you talent and not make a way for you. I remember saying to her, there is a scholarship waiting with your name on it better than you ever expected. If you think a pandemic is going to stop you from getting a scholarship, then you have no faith in who God is. You don't know the type of power that you harness in order to, and then you are diminishing and weakening the state of who God is.
That part. Wow.
And I remember getting on my knees saying, dear God, please give this little girl a scholarship.
Please, God, please.
And I declared this before she even applied for school. So this would have been in February. And she got her scholarship. but I never applied that same thing to myself. And this is recent. So we're always a work in progress. Like God is always revealing to us.
Always, always. There's always opportunities.
Absolutely.
No matter how far you think you've gotten, there's always, I tell my team that all the time, there's always opportunities. Now we just need to figure out what those opportunities are and apply them and figure out a fix. It might not even be a total fix, but some progress is better than no progress. And you just etch at it until it gets to, a place where you need it to be.
Absolutely. And that is where, when we wake up to not allowing ourselves, again, you in the beginning of the show, we talked about, I admire the fact that you own who you are.
Yeah.
Because then you activate things that are beyond imagination. And I always say God always exceeds what we could have ever imagined. But we have to stand, there's a level of responsibility that we have to take. You said you did a podcast and you took responsibility, not you, I did. You said that people have to take responsibility when infidelity exists, because they're harnessing that thought, that feeling, something. If you don't want to think about infidelity, then don't harness it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the same goes in the opposite way. You have to harness that mindset and you obviously possess it, because that's the way you live. You laugh, you speak it into being. You decide in that moment, I'm not going to live from a place of curse. I'm going to live from a place of blessing.
Absolutely. Yep. You got to change that whole mindset. Mindset is powerful. Mm-hmm. It can take you everywhere and nowhere at all. I say that to some of my clients. So until you get a mindset that is one that is productive and not destructive, until you get to that place, you don't go anywhere. You just stay dormant.
Right.
You have to make a choice, and your mindset will either get you there or hold you back. So it's all about choices. I chose a different path. I said years ago, that's not acceptable for my life. I'm worth more than that. And the cool thing is, I didn't have to have anybody tell me that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to have somebody build me up. You can do this. You can. No, I know for a fact that I'm more powerful than this.
Right.
And I'm not going to allow life to just happen to me. I'm going to happen to life. I'm going to show everybody what's up.
Right. And then you stop bringing people into your life energetically.
Come on.
Come
on now.
It's true, though. You know that.
I had to learn that in some of the hardest ways. Let's just get real for a second here now, Tanya. And I mean, we've been real, but now we're getting a little deep. My voice is going to get a little deep. I have the worst curse. And when we talk about opportunities, right? We're always learning and evolving. I have the worst curse on me with friendships. I have a very, very, very best friend. She has been around my family for many years, 20 plus years, right? Outside of that, my friendships have been terrible. And I don't fault anyone but myself. I didn't create boundaries. I didn't even know how to execute boundaries, how to demand boundaries, and just certain things that I didn't have in place in order to cultivate a solid foundation for friendship, knowing what their expectations of me, them knowing what my expectations are of them. Assumption was the umbrella that I held myself under. And that has just opened my eyes. That's another thing that kind of happened throughout the pandemic, is I came to that realization of just how powerful I am over my friendships. It's all about choices. And so I began to just remove toxic people from my relationship, just casting that down as an appendage, because it literally, it'll hang on to you if you don't let it go.
Right.
So, it's something that's one of my biggest opportunities that I plan to figure out for myself this year. But the awesome part about stepping into my power and knowing now who I am much better than I did last year, is now I'm speaking in a way that, I'm actually walking out that power. I'm displaying and emulating those attributes of what a friend should look like. I feel empowered now, and I wasn't empowered before. And so I feel more confident being able to go into situations and coming out where I don't have those same expectations. I'm not entertaining limiting beliefs that people mean me harm or anything like that. So life has just shown me a whole nother perspective, and now I'm open. Before I was very closed off. So friendships just did not grow in my presence. They did not grow because I took it on like, I look at people and I'm like, okay, if you're my friend, but you treat people this way and you treat me that way, I feel like I'm sloppy seconds or something, or getting sloppy seconds. What is that? And so I don't entertain those thoughts anymore. I just figure what's for me is for me. The friendships that now come my direction they're starting to become fruitful and multiplying in a way that it really contributes to me, and it doesn't take anything away from me.
Oh, I love that. It contributes. Yes.
Yes.
It's reciprocal.
So
yes.
it's something that's always been so super shifty. Some people have friendships from childhood. I don't have that. I wish I had that. I had some really remarkable friends when I was young, but life is it just wasn't plentiful in the friendship realm, up until this point. So
it resonates with me on a lot of levels.
Oh man.
I had challenges in relationships, but I started to understand that the friendships that were around me actually behaviorally reflected the way that I was treated growing up. So all I did was invite the same energetic feeling of those people into my life. So the abuse, like people would talk to me in a way and I'd be like, and I would sit there like, why did they say that? And I'd feel uncomfortable. And when I started to find my own voice and rebuttal it, it wasn't because I was being a bad, like, anyways, I was going to swear.
Go on, girl. It's your show. It's your show.
And I looked at it and I was and I remember standing up and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm doing this because if you feel comfortable making me feel uncomfortable, but you know what it feels like when I make you uncomfortable, there's a problem. Like, what do you make?
Yes.
And as I started to stand up and realize that I matter, and this is how I want to be treated. And I have to learn how to do that. I remember cleansing and thinking, I got to get rid of everybody in life with clean plate. And the reason why I think most people don't is we're afraid of the unknown. When I woke up to the idea that there's 7.5 billion people going on to 8 billion people on this planet, we are limited in thinking that we cannot create a healthy friendship somewhere else, that we're limited to these people.
This is it. Yeah.
Guys, listen to all you guys out there listening. LoLo and Lolo's in Texas. I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
So
go figure. Who would have thought?
So the idea, you got to choose you. The idea of staying in a friendship that makes you happy but makes me unhappy. You talked about it in the beginning when life is living you and you're not living life. Come on. What are we talking about here?
Exactly. It's a revelation to get to that point and start to go, yeah, you know what? You're right. I deserve better. It's just, we are born and bred on the premise that we get what we get and that's it.
Right. And
you shouldn't expect or want anything more beyond that. Right. Why? Because, okay, we're a product of our environment. Okay. And that doesn't mean we have to stay in that place. That's such a mind limitation. And it's not fruitful. You can't do anything with that.
No.
That keeps you where you are. I'm originally from Ohio. And in Ohio, when you talk about limiting beliefs, people won't leave there because they don't believe they can do what's called city life. If what I'm living is city life, okay. But I wasn't from like the deep down country. My grandma lived in the deep down country and we were always there. But for the most part, it was more city life. but they are comfortable just sitting in their rocking chairs on their porches and drinking their beer. And
Are you sure you're not in Canada?
is that about the same? It's so
Exactly.
sad to me. It's so
Right.
sad to me.
We're very cookie cutter, very cookie cutter. We all live in the same houses, go to the same type of schools. We get our low six-figure job.
Wow.
We pay off our mortgages, and then leave our houses to our children. Like, it's a very cookie cutter. We make enough to have a 1-year vacation or 2-year vacation, maybe buy a fancy car.
Right.
And I don't want to well, it is a majority.
Right.
It's the way
Right. I know what you
we
mean.
do.
It's not all, but there's
No,
a huge sect of people who have that limiting belief, and they just take what they get, and they're just like, okay.
it's Ohio, how you describe Ohio. And I come out of that box when you're somebody like yourself and myself, where I'm a ball of energy and I've got visions and dreams and
Man,
impact and
so much more.
right. And you're in a culture and an environment that doesn't nurture and support it nor understand it. And because they don't understand it and know how to nurture
Yeah.
who you are, you're suppressed. And then you think something's wrong with you. At least I did
Yeah.
for years.
And I don't want to, give off this air that I feel like I'm better than,
No, it's not about
but it just doesn't, right? I mean, I know you don't feel that way either, but I just am so progressive, I guess, in my thinking, that I feel like you should always be growing and wanting, I'm so ambitious that I feel like everyone should harness ambition in some capacity. It doesn't have to be at my level, but something that would push you forward beyond what you ever were. Some people are doing exactly the same thing that they were doing 30 years ago. No change, no progression in mind, body, or finance. I mean, all of the things. And that just to me is oppressive. It just feels oppressive.
So, the word complacency comes, the word boring comes to me because for me personally, it's boring. To some people, it's not. Yeah, like I really feel that you're right. Like, there's just so much more out there, like yourself.
Yeah.
And I like to see what's possible. Like, if we got the pen, okay, well, what can we do next? I always I'm curious. I've got a very
Right. What's the
spirit.
next thing? You have the spirit of Elon Musk, girl.
So what's that? Where are we flying to next? Yeah.
Right.
And it's challenging because I can now see and observe on the outside when people were looking at me saying, you push your kids, and I'm like, no, I don't. Doesn't everybody act like this? Like, I just thought it was normal. Doesn't everybody raise their kids like this?
Right.
And I was always encouraging my kids to go for it, and didn't have to be perfect and fail at it. I want you to fail at it. I want you to
Right.
and I needed to give that to my kids because I didn't get it. And you always give to your kids what you never got for yourself. And I said, look, at the end of the day, my badge of honor as a parent is to know that I did what I could to nurture you in finding what made you happy and make a living doing it.
Exactly.
And if I can do that, I'll be all right. I don't want you to find what makes me happy. As long as I've nurtured you to find what makes you happy,
yeah,
and guide you along to be successful, to support yourself doing it.
That's what matters. That's what matters. Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I wanted to be able to give my children so much more before, especially my girls, now that they're out of the house. And I was able to muster up a bit before they left. But, when it comes to giving them what you didn't have, the most important thing was internal, just that internal ability to deal with situations and experiences and to live a life they can be proud of, and one that's not going to leave them just worn out all the time, but learning how to harness their own power and potential and security. you know um Young ladies always deal with that external factor, not feeling good enough. So if anything, yes, I put myself together every day and try to make myself look the best so that I can feel the best. And that's that one thing that I was able to give to them as well. I don't want you to necessarily do what it is that I do. I just want you to show up for yourself in a way that will make you feel like you can do this. You know,
Right.
it's like putting on a cape. This is my cape.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to feel powerful. You want to feel in control of your life. And so that's the least that we can do, right, Tanya? That's the least that we can do, is just give them an ounce of what it is that we've learned that allows for us to do what we do on a daily basis. And if we
Absolutely.
can at least give them that, I think that's good.
Absolutely. I second that.
Right?
We are at the end of our show, and
Oh my gosh.
I know I could go for another hour.
Oh my God, that happened so quick. Yikes.
Is there any last nugget that you have for our audience this evening on, you know, and I like the saying, did you get the memo? You know, I'm powerful beyond measure. What is something as a general?
You know what? If you didn't get the memo, here's your memo. You are powerful beyond reality.
Oh,
But if you do not harness that and believe it for yourself, then those words mean nothing. I know that those words are not falling on deaf ears. If we allow ourselves to embrace what the world tells us our narrative is, then yes, you've lost your power. You can give it up. But you are so powerful, you can change your life by any means necessary if you have that desire and you start speaking those things that are not as though they were, and just walking it out, taking the necessary steps, making things happen in your life, and not having to apologize or explain to anyone why you feel the way you feel. You deserve your power. Take your power back.
Yay.
It belongs to you. We were born this way.
Yeah.
We were born to be powerful creatures. And so we just got to step into it and walk it out.
Absolutely. Because you are, LoLo, you are your greatest asset. You are the most interesting person you'll ever meet. I say it. If you go to my website, you'll see that little narrative that I have. You know, you are the greatest return on your investment.
Ooh, yes.
Self, like, you know, and I always say people like to donate business. Well, you are it. We have all the resources that we are not, all the assets within us with our mind, body, spirit, everything. When you talk about nutrition, eating, you know, like nature, when you're eating live enzyme foods and it all goes together, body, mind, and spirit, you are your greatest asset. And we are not tapping in and utilizing this asset so we can leverage. We're not leveraging our mind. We're not leveraging our spirit. We're not leveraging any of it.
100%. No, you're absolutely right. We're so much more than we give ourselves credit for.
Yes.
So much more.
So I am Lit Fit LoLo.
Yes, everywhere. I am.
Yes. Girl.
You better ask somebody. Yes.
We got Instagram, we got Facebook, we got LinkedIn. Again, guys, please TikTok, because I'm in love with your TikToks. That's why. And ain't nobody gonna hold me down as one of your TikToks coming up. I'm putting it out there.
Oh, you're putting that out.
Lit Fit Nutrition and Fitness.com. Go check out LoLo. And you know what? The world is waiting to work with you because you are amazing. Thank you all for tuning in. LoLo, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tanya.
And we will see you guys next week. Have a good evening. Take care. Good night.
Good night.